President Barack Obama had a press briefing earlier today to give his reaction to the acquittal of George Zimmerman. We're going to get to a lot of different quotes, but first we've got video. Let's watch.
When Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. And when you think about why, in the African American community at least, there's a lot of pain around what happened here, I think it's important to recognize that the African American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away. There are very few African American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me. There are very few African American men who haven't had the experience of walking across the street and hearing the locks click on the doors of cars. That happens to me, at least before I was a senator. There are very few African Americans who haven't had the experience of getting on an elevator and a woman clutching her purse nervously and holding her breath until she had a chance to get off. That happens often. And I don't want to exaggerate this, but those sets of experiences inform how the African American community interprets what happened one night in Florida.
I thought this was one of his bravest speeches in office and in a long time. I was actually surprised by it because he actually honestly talked about race in a way that I thought at this point in his presidency he would be afraid to. I'm being honest about how I feel about President Obama, et cetera. He did an amazing speech about race back when he was running for office in 2008. But ever since he's been in office, he's been so cowed by what the right wing has said that I thought if he did a speech like this and he talked about his African American experience and that racism actually exists, that his advisors would be like, "Are you nuts? Yeah. Do you know what Fox News is going to say? They're going to say you're, riling up racial hatreds and you're a, what they say about Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. You're a race hustler. You're a pimp. You're this. You're that." And apparently, no, this is something that moves him, and he's, decided to do this anyway.
Well, but they probably will still say that. I mean, the reaction from Twitter already is just a fire with conservatives attacking him, saying he's the first racist in chief and stuff like that he's race baiting, that he's trying to start riots and things like that. I mean, you have to have a pretty twisted mind to see that speech and think that he's encouraging people to, burn down buildings and murder people. But yeah, I think that this is one of the areas where Barack Obama is, this is one of the empathy, the compassion, this is what he's good at. And the fact that he can speak directly to the conversation that's going on right now in Black America, partially because the NSA has been listening directly to that conversation. But I think that's one area where he gets it right.
Yeah, and also that it was there's a lot of things to learn from this. Among them is that we did a segment today on TYT Sports about the tweets in reaction to Mark Anthony singing the God Bless America at the All-Star game and Yoenis Cespedes winning the home run derby and doing his interview afterwards in Spanish because that's his language. And so Twitter, Twitter has been this great breakthrough, and we may have made progress, but Twitter makes it seem like we've made very little progress.
Because you have to see the idiots and
right.
the racists.
I mean, it's just right. It is this sort of, it's an unfortunate outlet for so much venom. But what struck me about this is that Obama didn't plan, well, I mean, he may have planned it, but it was a surprise appearance to members of the press. Jay Carney was giving a briefing. The president just showed up and spoke for 10 minutes, however long he did, with this speech that I agree was extremely powerful and poignant. It just shows you, and everyone's going to lead the news tonight, and obviously you can't do it every day, but I mean, so we're glad he did it here, but it is also another moment of great frustration for those of us who are frustrated with the president. Use it. if you did this
Yes.
every 10 days,
Yes.
Yeah.
you could change. So when he thinks he can't change the nature of the conversation about whether there should be a public option, or which we know he probably didn't want, but whether there should be a public option or any number, or why we're not prosecuting people and why we're not making Wall Street prosecutions, any number of issues which the Republicans have controlled the agenda. Just talk about it. Come out, talk about it, and you'll be on the news, and you'll make them respond to your points. But he doesn't do it.
Now, to be fair, it's a little harder to get people to go, "Wow, what a great speech," when it's about healthcare, right?
No, this is right. He is seizing a moment of which obviously is incredibly important to the country and the media.
Right. Now,
But he can make it about individuals. That's one of the things that he does in his speeches. Like, it doesn't have to be about insurance rates and things like that. It can be about the human story.
I know when politicians do that, though. I know a woman in Iowa that came up to me and said, it seems so.
But that's true. But he does it better than they do it.
I'm tired of that. But when he
I'm tired
says,
of it
look,
too.
when he says, "I was Trayvon Martin
Yes.
35 years ago," that's not a canned speech. That's powerful. He went further. He said, if a white male teen would have been involved in this scenario, both the outcome and the aftermath might have been different. Okay, and then he said, if Trayvon Martin was of age and was armed, he could have stood his ground on that sidewalk. Could he have stood his ground on that sidewalk? If the answer to that question is at least ambiguous, then it seems to me that we should examine those laws.
And so it's not just empty empathy or compassion. He's actually tying it to the policies that allowed this verdict to be reached.
I'm surprised Obama is saying this, because it's really true, and he's going to get viciously attacked for saying, "How dare you say things like, white people and black people in this country are treated differently."
The thing was, he was speaking from personal experience about when a white woman clutches her purse in an elevator, you hear the doors click. Nobody can say that didn't happen to him. He's saying those are my personal experiences. Yeah. So you can't say that. And then you go, wow, that actually happened to the President of the United States. That could happen. So that does bring a whole new gravity. It frames the whole situation differently. And I haven't heard anybody make that point before. What if Trayvon Martin had a gun on that sidewalk? What would have happened then? He could have shot George Zimmerman because he was feared for his life. Have you heard someone make that point before?
He would have gone to jail for 20 years.
Yes.
Tavis Smiley said something interesting to Bill O'Reilly, and he said, how come the NRA didn't come out and say, hey, this tragedy could have been avoided if Trayvon just had a gun?
Totally, yeah.
Right? They never said that. They say that in every instance, but not this one.
Yeah.
And then Tavis Smiley made the point, honestly, I made a couple of days ago, where I said, okay, then if the NRA wants to arm everybody, and obviously Trayvon could have defended himself by NRA logic if he just had a gun, great, let's give every black male in the country a gun. Yes. Okay, so you're all, and by the way, when Smiley said that to O'Reilly, and I love that he said it on his program, O'Reilly said, well, now let's not be extreme. Gee, I wonder if there's a difference how O'Reilly views white gun owners and black gun owners.